Hey, let me check in on that YouTube channel I made for fun, low-effort TF2 videos. Well, hi guys. I guess welcome to Fishe. Team Fortress 2 Classic is a free mod that reimagines the 2008 and 2009 era of the original Team Fortress 2, with features ranging from old scrapped mechanics to entirely new content, such as new weapons and game modes like VIP, Domination, and 14. That's the description of TF2 Classic that you'll find on their wiki. I've been playing a lot of TF2 Classic recently, and I just wanted to talk about it because I think it is an amazing game. I do think it has some issues, but I just wanted to give my opinions. But if you don't want to watch the whole video, my recommendation is that you play Team Fortress 2 Classic. It is just a great game. It's just really fun, and the community is super amazing, super welcoming. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the classes one by one, what I think about the different changes to the different classes. I'm not going to focus too hard on the different game modes, the VIP 4-team stuff. I think that's like the most obvious thing that's different, other than the lack of weapons. Like I think a lot of people see the VIP game mode and they think this is some crazy new thing, or they see the 4-team game mode and they think that this is some crazy game-changing thing. But really, you're still just shooting guys. You're still the same old guys shooting the same. You know, it's, to me, the weapons and the changes to each class is what's particularly interesting. So I'm going to go through each of the classes now and what I think about their new weapons and their differences to live TF2. And yes, I'm going to be referring to base stock TF2 as live TF2 because that's how the TF2 Classic community refers to it. So let's start off with the Scout. Scout, as well as having obviously all of his stock unlocks, has the nail gun from the early TF2 scrapped nail gun, and it's not quite as game-changing as I had expected. It can allow a Scout to hold chokes more effectively. I have a memory of trying to push the tunnel on Badwater first, and the whole team just getting kind of owned by this one Scout spamming nails down the tunnel. Like, that's an ability that Scout normally doesn't have, which is quite interesting. But at the same time, the point of the nail gun is that it changes Scout from a close range class with the scatter gun into a mid-range class. And being in mid-range, Scout is now much more vulnerable to Soldier and Demo, especially Soldier. And so it's a pretty weird trade-off. It's not necessarily amazing, but it is more powerful than you would probably first initially think, at least than I initially thought, because I was comparing it to the syringe gun in my mind, but it does a lot more damage. The projectiles travel a lot faster, so it's a lot easier to use. It's pretty fun as well, but it's definitely not as good as the scatter gun, mostly because of the change in range. You know, Scout just isn't the best mid-range class in the game because of his health pool, and the extra speed and mobility that Scout has doesn't matter so much when you're further away, because relative distance means that the speed is relatively less. You know, something moving right up in front of your face, you have to swing your mouse around a lot. Something moving fast, slightly further away from you, you don't have to swing your mouse as much, so it's not as much of an advantage. So the nail gun is definitely not as good as the scatter gun, but it can still definitely delete gamers. The other funny weapon that they added for Scout is the brick, and the brick is actually surprisingly good. It can actually do like it's like does 70 damage, I think. It's like surprisingly reliable. I thought it was just a meme weapon, and to some extent it is a meme weapon, but also like I've played against Scouts who will effectively combo you with a brick in the middle of a combat encounter, and it is hilarious and also surprisingly effective. Next, Soldier. I don't really play that much Soldier, so I've gotten my friend and Soldier main Do Less to fill in for me here. Take it away, Do Less.
Soldier is pretty unchanged from live, but there are some things that make him different, or at least the experience of playing him different. You have this setting in the combat options, prefer projectiles to be fired from center, which lets you shoot all the projectile based weapons from the middle, so it's not just on one like reskin of stock that you can do it. So you can do it on both the rocket launcher and the RPG. Speaking of the RPG, it's the only new weapon for Soldier. You got gun with a shotgun. I think the RPG is pretty good for like comboing with the shotgun. Like you do a big burst damage with the rocket and you finish them off with the shotgun. It also, you go pretty far with a rocket jump. I'm in item test, so I can't really show that off. You don't have the escape plan in this game, so in order to get away from a situation that has become like too dangerous, you gotta manage your health better, so you can like rocket jump away instead. Also, just encouraging you to just take less damage, I guess. Also, pyros can be a bit more predictable. Not easier, but yeah, like a bit more predictable because they don't have the degreaser. There's an upcoming melee weapon as of the making of this video. It's gonna be it's an anchor like melee weapon for soldier, and it's gonna work sort of like the man treads, and I think that's gonna be really sick. I think that's all I have to say.
Personally, I like to play Pyro in live TF2 with the Sketch X style combos, the detonator to jump in close to people and the extinguisher to mini crit them out. So that playstyle is not super possible in this game, in Classic, because the extinguisher doesn't exist and the detonator doesn't exist. But there are actually two pretty similar weapons that are subtly different in an interesting way. The flare gun is in this game, and it's obviously a very well-designed weapon from base TF2, and I'm very glad that it's one of the optional weapons that they left in. But it is marginally more clunky without the degreaser switch speed bonus. That's not me asking for the degreaser to be added to the game, by the way. I'm just pointing it out. It's still very powerful. It's the flare gun. It's a powerful weapon. The twin barrel is basically like the force of nature, but it's a pyro secondary instead. It's a shotgun, but it also gives you knockback, allowing you to use it for mobility. And it's a great designed weapon. It lets you close the distance without the over-the-top health penalty of the detonator, and that's great. I've always thought the detonator health penalty served no real purpose, and I also have always thought that Pyro always needs a movement option. Whenever I play Pyro in live TF2, I always play with either the detonator or the jetpack, because Pyro without a movement option, you're only capable of doing damage in close range. It's hard to get in close range without some sort of movement option, so giving Pyro the force of nature jump was a really great decision in my opinion. It's also just kind of boring to play Pyro without any movement options, and also the twin barrel, it does pretty insane damage. You can do 120 damage meat shots with max damage ramp up, I mean, but you're going to be hitting a base 80 damage, which is still really high. Of course, it does have a much slower firing speed than the stock shotgun, so technically it has lower DPS. But I think the twin barrel might be a little bit overpowered right now. Just a touch, just a tiny bit, because it just does so much damage. It's very easy to just, combo people with afterburn and a twin barrel shot. It can do, kind of an insane amount of burst damage. It's very powerful. Whether it's overpowered, I'm not sure, but it is very powerful. The Harvester I consider to basically be genius weapon design. The Harvester, the way it works is you build a meter as you take afterburn or deal afterburn. When you pull your melee out, the Harvester melee, as fire ticks are going on, it builds a meter, and once that meter hits 100%, you get a free melee crit, which might not be that powerful. One free melee crit for dealing quite a bit of afterburn. It's not like that easy to fill up the meter. However, it is incredibly fun to use. Dealing melee crits is just funny. It's just entertaining. And it's balanced by the fact that if you have the Harvester equipped, when you die, the afterburn, whatever afterburn you were doing, is extinguished, which actually makes fighting pyros a lot more fun. It feels a lot, being able to kill the pyro and then not die to his afterburn because he was using the Harvester, which is ultimately not that good of a weapon. It's not that strong, but it is just fun because melee crits are fun, and it also gives you health on afterburn as well. You get some health regen. So I think the Harvester is a really good weapon, but just because it's fun to fight against. Desperately running away from a Pyro that you can see a glowing crit on his Harvester running towards you is a funny. It's a funny moment. It's a funny Team Fortress 2 Classic moment, and it's fun to use. It's fun to fight. It's well balanced. It's a great unlock. Oh, it's not an unlock, I guess, in this game. It's a great alternative weapon. Another thing to note about Pyro compared to live TF2 is that the flame particles are different, and it's not just a visual difference. In live TF2, every flame particle that actually has a hitbox is represented by a particle in the game that you can see. Although it works a little weirdly sometimes, that is how it's supposed to work, at least. Whereas in Classic, that's not the case. There's just one particle effect that represents your flame and is similar to where your flame particles are going, but it's not directly representative of each flame particle. So sometimes it can be a little weird. Sometimes you don't set people on fire that you feel like you should have. Sometimes you set someone on fire when your flame wasn't really near it. It takes a bit of getting used to. It's not necessarily better or worse. It's definitely better optimized, and in my opinion, it looks pretty good as well. But it just sort of might take a little bit of getting used to if you're very used to playing Pyro in live TF2. And that's something to note all across this game, is just how much insanely better optimized Classic is than live TF2. I don't know how they did it. I have to play live TF2 in 720p to get decent frame rate. I can play Classic with like high view models, high texture, 1080p, no frame drops. It's great. I don't know what they did, but it's amazing. Okay, on to Demoman. My main, what I've spent most of the time doing in Team Fortress 2 Classic. The first thing that I was really excited about, and one of the things that actually made me want to play this game in the first place, is that Demoman has the gunboats. You swap them out for your primary, for your grenade launcher. More like fun boats, am I right? Because they're fun. I love the sticky jumper in live TF2. Flying around with mid-air sticky jumps is just insanely fun. I love going fast in the game. Is the gunboats actually effective? Is it worth trading your grenade launcher for? Probably not. Like, the gunboats on Soldier work because you can instantly shoot a rocket and have it explode. Like, the fact that that's not an option, and also the fact that Soldier benefits so much more from high ground than Demo does. Like, you don't really need the high ground as much as you do on Soldier when you're playing Demo. And secondly, because of the arm time on stickies, you can't really, like, bombs are just not anywhere near as effective on Demo as they are on Soldier. In fact, I found when I've been playing with the gunboats that you actually want to land, like, not directly on people like you would when you're playing Soldier. You want to land, like, in mid-range where Demo likes to fight, because your stickies they are just much more effective at that range. Unless you want to be desperately pressing M1, M2 at your own feet, it's probably better to jump in, try and control to a mid-range where Demo's comfortable fighting, and then use it to jump out afterwards. It does require just a very different playstyle than you normally play on Demo, because you are playing a lot more like a roamer soldier. You're jumping into fights, doing damage, jumping away, lots of health packs, not sticking by your medic, spamming grenades over walls like you normally would with a normal Demo playstyle. Practically speaking, it's not worth giving up pills for. Pills are just a great weapon. The ability to just deal 100 damage from behind a wall or something, or across the map, is so powerful. It's also great, pills are also good for enemies that try and rush you, quick reactions. There's so many situations where grenades are the best. Not having them is pretty limiting on Demo, but it's insanely fun, especially on big open maps. Playing with the gunboats is insanely fun. The dynamite pack is a replacement for your stickies. It's I don't really understand why people use it. I mean, stickies are the best weapon in the game. There's pretty much nothing that's going to be worth trading your sticky bomb launcher for. It's just the best weapon in the game. And the dynamite pack is really not that good. Like, it's really not very strong, and it's not at least for me at least, it's not particularly fun. I get how it could be fun if you have a very grenade pipe focused playstyle. I know there are a lot of people who think like quote unquote sticky spamming is boring. So if that case you want to play with a more pipe forward playstyle, you get to lob a big pack of dynamite at people, and it slows them down if it hits them, like the Sandman, and then explodes, and then the exploded bits explode again. Like, it can clear out a small area. It's an effective temporary area denial tool, but it's just not anywhere near as effective as a sticky trap would have been. Like, one sticky can do the same job, or a sticky carpet of any, it's just, to me, not really worth trading out the versatility of stickies. But that's not to say it's a badly designed weapon. It's not annoying to play against, and it's just not that good. The mine layer, again, is a trade-off, a weapon that you switch out your stickies for. And what that does is, basically it's just like stickies, except you only have 4 in a clip instead of 8, and they detonate automatically when a player comes into the radius of them. Although you can also detonate them with mouse 2. I just don't think they're worth it. Like, stickies are just the same thing but better. This is the only weapon in the game, it's not the only one, but it's one of the few weapons in the game, new weapons, that I feel like is too similar to stock. But I also think this one's kind of badly designed in a particular way, and that is that there's no clear visual indicator for when you're in the range for a mine to explode. Like, it's not like they only explode when you step directly on them. There's a small range around where the mine is that they'll detect a player and explode. But there's no visual indication of how big that range is. So oftentimes you're just like not sure how close you can safely get to a mine without blowing it up. And that can be pretty frustrating when you're playing against this weapon. I think it should have some sort of visual indication. But then maybe that would give away the point if you were using it to set traps around a corner. Maybe not. Maybe I just have to get good. I don't know. I just find that kind of a little bit frustrating to play against. It's not a huge problem. But yeah, I just don't really see the point of this weapon. Like, throwing a pack of dynamite at someone, at least is kind of fun and funny, and it requires like projectile aim, which is a good mechanic. Like, putting mines down is not that fun. Like, you just put mines in the doorway, walk away, and then like 5 minutes later you get a kill feed notification that they blew someone up. It doesn't feel very satisfying. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this weapon. I'm not against it being in the game, but I think it's kind of boring, and I would definitely never use it myself. On to Heavy. So Heavy's main biggest change is the anti-aircraft cannon, or the AA cannon. And to be honest, this weapon is just overpowered. It's not fun to play against. I think this weapon is badly designed. The idea is, instead of having a minigun, you have a big aircraft cannon that shoots extremely fast-moving explosive projectiles. And they have a limited range, but they do explosive splash damage, and they're very powerful. And then on top of all of that, they do mini crits on airborne players. It's just too strong. It's just frankly too strong. It neuters your main counter to Heavy, right? The main counter to Heavy is they move slowly, so you can effectively corner peek a Heavy to chip down his health. That's in your muscle memory. If you're a TF2 player, you see a Heavy in an enclosed space, you corner peek the Heavy, and then you stand a chance against them. Because this does splash damage, they're just going to shoot at your feet or at the wall behind you, and they just do more damage than you. So that just neuters the like most effective way of taking down a Heavy with no downside. The only downside of the weapon is that it has limited range, but the minigun also has effectively limited range, because across the map you might technically be doing damage, but you're doing barely any damage because of the random bullet spread and the damage fall off. So the limited range is like really not a factor ever. And then on top of it already being incredibly powerful, then you just get free mini crits on airborne players for no reason. It's just absurd. Like, it's just too powerful. It's fun, like, don't get me wrong, it's really fun to play with. I think it's more nuanced than the stock minigun. And it's also just insanely powerful, which makes it fun to play with, because you can go on like high kill streaks and pwn noobs with it, which is fun. So you'll see a lot of people using it over stock for this reason. I'd say it's basically replaced stock in TF2 Classic. Like most heavies I see are playing with the anti-aircraft cannon, but it's just, I think in its current state it's just overpowered. Like it makes it, heavy is really buffed in this game because of it. Like I see a lot more heavy players, and fighting a heavy is way more risky because the AA cannon is just insanely powerful. And maybe that's an intentional choice. Maybe they wanted, maybe they thought heavy was too weak in the original TF2, which I think is understandable. But heavy has his niche. I don't know. I personally I at least remove the mini crits on airborne players. Like that's just mean. It's just mean. Another thing to know about heavy is that the sandwich has been reworked slightly. In TF2 Classic, eating the sandwich doesn't consume it. It heals less than in live. I forget the exact amount it heals for, but it heals less. But eating it doesn't consume it, so you can stand in a corner eating consecutive sandwiches. It's only when you throw your sandwich to someone else that it actually consumes the sandwich, and you have to wait for it to regen. I think this is great. I think this is better than live, because now you're punished. You take sort of a time penalty and a vulnerability penalty. You know, you're locked into an animation. You either have to run somewhere safe and then you're out of the fight for ages in order to regen health, or you know you take a risk and then you're more vulnerable because you're locked into an animation. It's good risk reward play, but because you can eat consecutive sandwiches, it means that heavy is much more self-reliant. You can go deep and heal yourself back up to full, which again with the AA cannon means heavy is just a much more formidable foe in Classic than he is in live. And finally, the Chekhov's punch. I think the Chekhov's punch is a great weapon. The way that the Chekhov's punch works is, if you punch someone with your melee, you get crits. You get a crit every time you punch someone, up to 3. Either with crit sandwich, which does critical heals, a crit melee, or 1.5 seconds of crit minigun / AA cannon. I think it's great because punching people as heavy is hard because you're slow. And so you should be able to get rewarded with a big reward, similar to the KGB in live TF2, the killing gloves of boxing. But this works much better because getting a kill is just insanely hard as heavy, and kind of relies on like luck-based random crits. You know. Anyway, I think the Chekhov's punch is great, and the other reason I think it's great is because of the downside. The downside is that you always take crits from any melee, which is just extremely funny, and a much needed nerf to heavy after all of the buffs. Like seeing a heavy and seeing the chains on his arms, which are very obvious with the way the Chekhov's punch is designed, which is great visual design language, by the way. The fact that you can easily tell at a glance instantly if this guy's using the Chekhov's punch. You have to then make the calculation in your head, like, okay, I can fight this guy, and if I want to, I could maybe hope his back is turned. Am I going to be able to close the distance and get a melee crit on him? Like it creates a really interesting counterplay to heavy. But then it's like, okay, well, if I run up to him and try and get close, is he going to crit me? Or is he going to punch me and then get free crits? I mean, like, you know, it creates a really interesting dynamic when you're fighting heavies with this weapon. I think it's great. Next is Engineer. The no Jag, no Wrangler, no Rescue Ranger, no Mini Sentries all nerfs Engineer significantly. Again, I can imagine Engineer mains from finding TF2 Classic pretty boring because of this, but it also makes Engineer a lot less annoying to fight. I'm imagining if you're a Scout main, you know, no Mini Sentries is probably a godsend to you. As Demo main, I gotta say I appreciate the lack of the Wrangler Rescue Ranger combo quite a lot. I also definitely appreciate the lack of a short circuit in this game. I fucking hate the short circuit. So that's great. But it does kind of make Engineer a little more boring to play. So Engineer has one different weapon, which is the coil gun. The coil gun kind of works like the Gauss cannon from Half-Life 1, if you ever played that game. You can charge up a shot with your secondary fire and release it, but then if you charge it up all the way, it explodes like the loose cannon or the beggar's bazooka, except it just shoots you directly up in the air, and then it takes away like half of your health, which means it is really just not worth it. Like, it's nice that Engineer gets that movement option, but the health penalty is just way too high, especially when you have access to jump pads. Jump pads are a replacement for the teleporter, and they are way more impactful than I thought they would be when I heard about them. They are actually huge game changer, especially on defense. The fact that you can get a fully revved heavy and their pocket medic, you know, in any position on the map, just flying out of the skybox at you is just insanely terrifying. Even just putting medics in places that they wouldn't normally be able to get to is insanely powerful. And jump pads can completely change the way certain maps are played. Like if you look at Badwater Lost, holding Badwater Lost is very different because of the way that you know the overhang where engineers normally put their sentries when they're defending Badwater Lost. Most of the time, you'll see a jump pad just in front of that, so that the defending team can jump straight up to the platform above that, and that just means they lock it down way more effectively, and it pushes blue more towards map room and the other flank. It changes the dynamic of holding that last, and there's a lot of other areas on other maps where it works similarly. Like jump pads are actually a massive thing in this game. They can completely change the way maps flow, which is pretty fun. They also allow you to Goomba Stomp someone if you land on them after the jump, and that's fun. That's funny, that's hilarious. Goomba Stomps are great. I think the jump pads are a really well designed item. So with all of that, I think playing Engineer is definitely less fun than it is in live TF2, but playing with an Engineer is way more fun. Medic is my single biggest problem with Team Fortress 2 Classic. Medic without the crossbow is boring as fuck to play and ineffective. Moving the crossbow is a huge nerf to Medic. The crossbow is the Medic primary. I understand why they did it. You know, the crossbow is not a weapon that was around in 2008. It wasn't buffed into a usable state until like 2011-ish. Maybe even later, I don't remember exactly. But I understand the crossbow is not classic. It's not classic, but to my mind, Medic without the crossbow just fucking sucks. I mean, it's really boring to play. It's really ineffective, having to wait around, not having any burst healing, not being able to do any ranged healing. It's pretty annoying to not have the crossbow. Now, I will say, they will be adding a ranged healing option for Medic in the next update, which will hopefully make Medic less boring. But right now, even though I play Medic a little bit in live TF2, I have basically no reason to play Medic in Classic. It is just so boring. The Kritzkrieg has a different skin, like a different model that's more distinct from stock, and it also has a different beam, like it's more lightning-y, I guess, than stock, which means you can tell if the other team is using crits or stock very easily from a distance. It's just nice. It's just a nice little quality of life thing. And the other medic change is there's a new melee called the shock therapy, and the way it works is that as you're healing, you build a second meter other than Uber, and when that meter's full, if you hit someone with your melee, they get full overheal immediately. They get buffed to full overheal, which is insanely powerful. The trade-off is that all of your healing rate is slower overall. And I think the shock therapy is a really well-designed weapon. It's the only reason that Medic isn't like completely brain dead in this game. Burst healing is just so useful, and being able to strategically use the shock therapy in the middle of a fight to buff a teammate to full can win rounds if you use it well. You know, it's great. I like that weapon a lot. But it does rely on TF2 melee hit reg, which means it can be pretty annoying, especially when you're passing through your own teammates. But it does give you some pretty pog moments when you're playing Medic, where you save a teammate who was just on the edge of dying and give them a second lease on life with full overheal. The other different melee weapon is the Uber Spritzer, which is just the Uber Saw with a minor health penalty of -10, and it barely matters in practice, so it's just the Uber Saw. It's good for the same reasons the Uber Saw is good. Next up is Sniper. Let me just right off the bat say that Sniper is a bad class, evil class. I hate Sniper. If you're a Sniper main, I hate you. I dislike Sniper. In this game, they added a new. They have the Huntsman, stock sniper rifle, and a new sniper rifle called the Hunting Revolver. The Hunting Revolver is fucking bullshit. It does 120 damage headshots, but it has 6 shots in the clip instead of 1. So you can just do rapid fire 120 damage headshots if you can aim. It sucks. Who thought this was a good idea? It's so bad. It's so unfun to fight against. I mean, Sniper is already incredibly unfun to fight against. Taking rapid fire body shots and head, it's just so annoying. Like, the idea is that it gives you a boosted health, it gives you a health buff, 50 health extra, and it has damage fall off and no scope. So it's supposed to make Sniper more of a mid-range. It's supposed to fix the problem with Sniper, which is that he's the only long-range class in the game and no one else can counterplay him. It's supposed to be like, here's a Sniper unlock where you play in close or mid-range. It's supposed to be like a more aggressive mid-range Sniper. But in actual gameplay, it doesn't work like that. Because there is a zoom, it's just not as extreme as the zoom on the stock Sniper rifle. And the damage fall off is just not enough. It's supposed to encourage aggressive mid-range sniping, but in reality, it's just headshots across the map with pepper, and then pepper, you pepper them with body shots. It's just like, hit one headshot from across the map, and then you get 3 body shots, and you just kill someone. It's just annoying. There's no counterplay. It's just annoying for all the same reasons Sniper is always annoying, but worse because now he gets 50 health extra for free, and much faster firing speed for free. It sucks. It's very bad. The way that and what's worst about it is that we have the perfect example of how this weapon should have worked. It should have been exactly like the Ambassador currently works in TF2, right? No zoom, less damage, 102 damage headshots, not 150. And it would actually make Sniper close the distance on people. And if you're sitting here thinking that that's too weak, then you've clearly never played against a god tier gun spy. So I don't know, hop on a high tower server sometime, because that's where they hang out. Bullshit weapon. There's also a new Sniper melee called the Fishe Whacker, which does knockback and bleed when you hit them, but does only 30 damage, I think. It's a bit stupid. It's a bit of a meme weapon because it does insane knockback. It's supposed to counter spy. Obviously, it doesn't really matter because if a spy is close to you, you're probably dead anyway. If you're getting in a melee fight with a spy, you're going to get trick stabbed. I guess the idea is that you hit them and then they get launched away and they can't trick stab you. I don't know, it's a bit silly. It's a bit of a silly weapon. It doesn't really have that much impact on the game, to be honest, since Sniper rarely uses his weapon. Sniper rarely uses his melee. And speaking of Spy has a new primary, which is called the Trank Gun. When you shoot someone with the Trank Gun, they get slowed, their vision turns black and white, and any melee damage becomes a crit while they're under the effects of the Trank. And that lasts for 5 seconds at close range, down to 1.5 seconds at long range. And the black and white is actually a big deal, because you can't tell who's a teammate and who's not a teammate. Somehow, I have no idea how they pulled this off, the weapon doesn't suck. Like, you'd imagine that is the most annoying weapon to play against ever. It just gives Spy, like, butter knives for free. But actually, it really doesn't. Because you might not be able to run away, but you can still shoot. You can still shoot the Spy who's running directly towards you in a straight line. And actually pulling off the combo as Spy is super fun. It is insanely satisfying. Like, somehow they made this, like, fun to play against and also fun to play with. It's, like, really well implemented. You would expect it to be really annoying because of the, like, getting shot across the map, but because it only lasts 1.5 seconds, like, you just brush it off and it does, like, no damage. The shot itself, it does, like, barely any damage at all, and it has an extremely slow firing speed. It's just, I don't know how they did it. They just made it really weak, but also situationally insanely strong. So you have to you have to be aware of your surroundings in a way that's interesting. I think it's good. The other difference is the Spy has a new invis watch called the Les Compet. I gotta say, this is supposed to be a sort of replacement for the Dead Ringer, and I just gotta say, it's so nice to kill a Spy and just know for a fact that the Spy is actually dead. Personally, I don't play Spy that much. The Les Compet doesn't seem that consequential, so I haven't really experimented with it that much. It is supposed to be sort of a more aggressive Spy invis watch, but yeah, and I really haven't messed around with it that much. Although in this game, without the Deadringer Kunai combo, Spy actually has to play with it like a spy, even with the less compet. He still has to play actually like a spy. He has to be sneaky and you know, sneaky like a spy would be. That's actually nice. It makes playing spy more fun. It makes fighting spies more fun. It's good. So in conclusion, Team Fortress 2 Classic feels a lot like TF2 without the bullshit. It's so nice to be free from barely surviving an encounter, only for Demonite to fly out of the skybox and one-tap you with no counterplay. Yes, I am so salty that at this point I'm even complaining about Demonite. I'm sorry, Demonite mains, but sometimes you can be really annoying. I'm just saying, I don't miss Demonite. When I play TF2 Classic, I don't miss Demonite. Although they are going to put something. The next update is going to have an item that is somewhat similar to Demonite's charge mechanic. We'll see how that turns out in the next update. Yeah, that's right. That's another great thing about TF2 Classic. It actually gets updates with new weapons and stuff. It also has an anti-cheat that works. I saw someone get banned in a game the other day because of the TF2 Classic anti-cheat, not back. So, it's, you know, Demonite, I don't miss him. It's nice to be free from the Vaccinator. There's no Vaccinator, there's no Flog Pyros, there's no Wrangler, there's no infinite health black box conch soldiers, there's no ugly ass cosmetics, there's no hat-based prejudicial healing, there's no sniper piss covering you from across the map that you can't do anything about and just have to hide in a corner until it goes away. There's no short circuit deleting your projectiles with no counterplay. You know, that there's a button in the menu that you tick if you want projectiles to fire from the center. That is the most god tier change ever, and it makes going back to live TF2 so annoying because Soldier has the original, but they never gave Demoman the Quake grenade launcher for some reason. I don't know why. If Demoman had the Quake grenade launcher, it would be the best thing ever. I would forgive Valve. No, I wouldn't. Fuck Valve. But I would definitely use that if Demoman had that, but he doesn't. So Demo's projectiles don't shoot from the center, and it sucks. And now they do shoot from the center by just ticking a box, and that is really, really good. There's so many other like quality of life changes in the settings. There's a bunch of settings for stuff that you actually need that are just like really easy to change in the menu. One thing that's nice is the FOV. Like, you're not locked at maximum 90 anymore, which for me has always never quite been enough. I'm someone who generally plays games with a high FOV. I play TF2 Classic with 120 FOV, which might sound insane to some of you, but I like it. I like being able to see my peripherals. Okay, what can I say? And that's really nice. It just makes the game feel better to me, having a much higher FOV. You can like turn arms off. Like, you know, in live TF2, you can turn weapon models off. In TF2 Classic, you can just turn the arms off, so the weapons are like floating in front of you, and that's I mean, it looks kind of cool, but it's, I don't know, I like that. It's a good little thing. There's so many like little things that are just in this game, and I haven't even mentioned the fact that there are like all these servers with custom weapons, like 100 million custom weapons that all work in insane ways. I haven't really played that much with the custom weapons, but you know, without all of the new bullshit TF2 weapons, a lot of the older maps like Dust Bowl, in a way that's hard to quantify, just feel better. It's almost like you're playing the game that those maps were balanced around. Although I do miss some things from live TF2. The main thing being Medic's crossbow, the Crusader's crossbow. Without it, I think Medic is just way too weak and mainly boring to play. And I also miss having group taunts like the Conga, because sometimes servers will go friendly, but there's nothing you can't really do much while you're being friendly in Classic. Like, you just sort of walk around, use voice commands at each other, but I'd like to see the Conga in this game or something similar. I know it kind of go against some of the philosophy of the game, but I think it'd be nice, personally speaking. But by far the best thing about Team Fortress 2 Classic is the community. Every single person who plays Team Fortress 2 Classic is autistic, and I mean this in the best possible way. There's a Venn diagram of furries, Linux users, and trans people, and TF2 Classic players is a circle. That's not me coming out as trans. I'm just saying, there's a lot of trans people, there's a lot of furries, a lot of Linux users. It's the type of people that you would expect to play Team Fortress Classic in the best possible way. It feels like in Team Fortress Classic is the sort of place where you could say something in Toki Pona and half the server would understand you. You know, everyone is super nice and super welcoming. People actually talk on All Talk. It's great. Everyone's having fun, and most importantly, everyone who's playing genuinely loves the game. Even if they complain sometimes, even if they get salty when they lose, you can tell that the community really loves the game. They're all super friendly, they're all super nice. They all have funny sprays. Sprays are enabled by default. I guess I should have fully talked about the way random crits work. The way random crits work in the pseudo-official TF2 Classic servers is that there are no random crits, but there are random crits on melee only, which I think is the best possible implementation of random crits. I really like it. But anyway, that's not a good note to end the video off on. I want to end the video off on, I love the community for this game, and it's what keeps me coming back. You can go into a game, and the voice chat is going to be funny. Everyone's really nice. So shouts out to the Team Fortress 2 Classic community, and I highly recommend playing this game. Even if there are problems with it, like the hunting revolver and the anti-aircraft cannon being too overpowered, like I still think the game is fun. And that's what ultimately matters. It's TF2. It's basic TF2, and most importantly, it's not live TF2. It's getting updated. So there's a good chance that some of these issues that I have get fixed or changed in ways that I can't even imagine that would fix the issues I have with these weapons, make them more fun to fight against. Like maybe the AA cannon is really powerful on purpose because they thought heavy was too weak in live TF2, and I think that's a reasonable, like, yeah, you know, maybe heavy should be stronger. I don't think there's any excuse for the way the hunting rifle works though. That is just fucking bullshit. The sniper didn't need to be more powerful. Okay, thanks for watching.